All right, let's go ahead and get started, everyone. This is Dr. Norman. She's been with Career Center about 2 years, and she has a PhD in ethical leadership in education. So we're going to talk about resumes today. She's going to give a presentation. We have documents that you have in front of you, and then we have documents available on Blackboard. We will have the documents available on Blackboard, as well as the PowerPoint slides available on Blackboard. So for those watching at home, they can follow along by using the PowerPoint and the PDFs. We will have time for questions at the end or throughout. So anything before we get started? Okay, Dr. Norman.
Awesome. Good morning.
Good morning.
I know some of your faces, some of you are a little bit new to me. But like I said, I work in the Career Center. And actually my director's in this space back here, back in the orange. That's Janice. And so you'll also see her in the Career Center as well. Do you all know where we are? If you do, raise your hand. Anybody know where we are? Raise your hand high. Okay, so a couple of people don't actually know where we are. So we are located in Engineering Building 2 on the 3rd floor. We are the floor officially as of last week with the big red wall. There's no other big red wall in the engineering building. So if you find yourself on that floor, you'll know it's us, Engineering Career Center. And you have a couple of documents in front of you. I want to make sure that you also have your resume, or even if it's a draft of a resume, to go ahead and pull that out now. If your resume is on the laptop, fine. Pull your laptop out. That's completely fine. If you have a paper document, that's fine as well. But today, after this session, hopefully you will leave with a stronger resume after we have our discussion. This is not a discussion where I'm just speaking. It's very interactive. So ask your questions, right? If you have examples about things, if you're wondering about something, speak up, because you may not be the only person asking that question. So a little bit about me and why I do what I do. So when I went to college back in the day, I was a first generation college student. And I didn't understand anything about career services, right? I didn't understand everything that needed to happen within career services and how to prepare myself for a career. And so because of that, it's really amazing for you all to be able to have a support system in place where from your freshman year all the way up until your, graduate school, to have a space where you can really learn all about career services. Today we're particularly talking about the resume, but you do have a document that talks about all the different types of services that we do offer. So if there is anything related to you trying to develop yourself as an engineer, right while you're in class and in school, we offer that to you. From interviews to helping you with your LinkedIn page, to helping you to understand how to network, how to talk to people, how to shake hands, even going down shaking hands, as well as how to make sure you're attending events and connecting with employers, right? Oftentimes we get the students who come in their senior year and they're about to graduate and then trying to ask the question, so how do I get a job? And that's a little bit too late of a time to ask that question. So right now, we're gonna talk about the resumes and everything you need to do, because this is really your first step, right, into putting your face out there and your experience out there, okay? So, because I wanna make sure this is as interactive as possible, what are you hoping to get out of today's session? And you gotta talk to me, you can't just stare at me. What are some of the things that you really hope that you'll leave with today?
I would like more information on the more nuanced and technical sides of, I guess, like the wording. I see there's like an action verb, which is good. Like just a general like structure, because mine's very, very bones.
Gotcha.
I mean, it is a rough draft.
Yes, and at least you have one, because sometimes it's blank. So that's good. At least you have a foundation. So talking about the structure of the resume, awesome. We'll definitely talk about that. Yes.
Knowing what to take out, because I need more room.
Right. Of course, you've heard that the resume needs to be one page, right? That's kind of the general rule. Now, as you get into your more experience, you get into graduate school, if you have professional working experience, those rules may change a little bit for you, but not for every company. For instance, Exxon does not care if you have a PhD or 3 PhDs, they still want one page. So it is really important that you understand, right? Being able to fit everything in one page, and if you do spill over, what does that actually mean for you? Okay, we can do that. What else? Yes?
I agree with that, and then also if we could maybe cover just, I guess, the beginning of the year, beginning of the semester, like what should I do this year that people are gonna want to see on my resume?
Ah, okay, okay. So how to build your experience in your resume. What are they looking for? Yep, we'll talk about that. Anything else?
I
Yes.
wanted to go deeper into the summary. I always have a hard time writing like something concise, something that's straight on.
Okay.
Actually, I did have a question about that. I noticed on some examples on Blackboard that our professor posted, some said summary, others said objective.
Ah, okay. We're going to talk about the difference between the two. Anything else? So for those of you who are being really good listeners and haven't yet added your voice, if you do find there is something additional that you also want to discuss, just say it, right? And go from there. So we're mainly going to be using the template as a guide today. Again, if you have your laptop, if you have a pencil or pen, or have your document there with you, make sure that you're able to see all of the resources together in addition to yours. Does everybody at least have some type of resume? Everybody, if you do, raise your hand. Okay, good, yeah, awesome. Okay, so I encourage you as we're going through writing the notes on your resume, if you're crossing things out, saying I don't need this anymore, I need to add things here, make sure you're being really active in this space. If I need to slow down or repeat something, make sure that you tell me that as well. And we'll get started. So, who can tell me what is the purpose of the resume? Yes. And can you tell me your name when you say something? I'm sorry.
And Laura,
And Thara, okay.
so like the video said to get you into the door, like to get you to be able to talk to the person about the skills on paper.
Okay, okay, good, good. Yes,
To make you stand out in a positive way.
to make you stand out in a positive way. Okay, good. Any other thoughts? Okay, so the real practical reason, right, in addition to those and kind of what you already alluded to, this resume really is to make sure that you get the interview, right? A lot of times some will say, this is to get me the job, but you're skipping the whole step about the interview piece. But yes, it's to put your best foot forward for you to become the ideal candidate for that particular position. So in this session, we're going to talk a lot about strategies. We're going to talk to you about what are employers looking for, what are HR representatives looking for, right? College reps, what are they actually looking for when they're looking at your resume as well. So within the resume, recruiters are looking at hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of resumes, and they have to use different techniques in order to really look through your resume very quickly. And so they don't spend a lot of time perusing your resume. We had one recruiter in particular from Technip FMC. She sat down with me and she taught me how she actually looked through. You know how we're taught to read left to right on a document, right? She taught me about how she reads straight down in the matter of like 5 seconds to be able to see if she wants to continue on with that person's resume based on the words that they use, because those first words are really important. In addition to, is it a good fit for the actual job description that they placed out there, as well as what type of employability, right? What type of employee will you be based on your past experiences? So everything you put on your resume is very strategic, which is why we're going to talk about why we don't actually see objective anymore and why we're moving towards a summary and what that means, okay? So if you have objective on your resume, this is where you use your little pen or your laptop and you cross that out. We're going to talk about why that's important. In addition to that, your resume also talks about really your experiences. And one mistake that some students will make is come into our office and say, I don't have any experience. And the reason we say that is because we don't understand what truly experience is. When we say experience, what's the first thing we think of?
Work experience.
Work experience, always. But we forget about projects, our experience. We forget that if you're part of a student organization, if you're an AP, SWE, NSBE, and you've taken a leadership role, or you've joined a committee, or you volunteered to help students in the metropolitan area build projects, that is also experience, right? Internships absolutely are experience, and our office wants to make sure students are getting internships, right? And that's one of the things we help coach you on how to be able to do that. So experience is very broad, but it's all about how you strategically word it, right? And what makes sense in what you're trying to go into. How many Kimmies do I have in here? Okay, class full of Kimmies. Raise your hand again. Okay, this might be easier. So what is your major?
I'm doing biomedical engineering.
Biomedical, okay. Wow. Civil, okay. Wow, I did not expect that many Kimmies to raise their hand from there. Usually it's more mechanical when I come in, so okay, this is a different bit of class. And then it also talks about the summary of your education. Everyone is attaining a bachelor's degree? Anyone master's level in here? No? Okay. So all bachelor's level within there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into, before we jump to that, we're gonna go ahead and go into this form. So everybody go ahead and pull the template out, make sure that's front and center from here. If you need to mark this up as well, putting your questions on here. So at the very top, you'll see bright and bold is the name. This should be the largest font on your resume. Your name should be very clear. Here's a tip for you. So sometimes we use names on our resume that may be different from names within our transcript. So be careful about doing that and be cautious about doing that. Sometimes I'll see students maybe put their preferred name and then the transcript is completely different. So you don't want to confuse employers, make sure that they know that you're the same person. So some people will put their, what's on the transcript, but also put their preferred name in quotes, kind of in the middle as well. So just make sure it matches. Make sure they don't think it's two different people with that information. You'll also see at the top we say to put a cell phone number, a contact number. If you don't have a cell phone, a home phone number, as long as it's a contact number, your UH email address. So I'll get the question, can I put Yahoo, can I put Gmail? In our system, I don't know what's happened to my voice. In order to be in our system at the university, we want to make sure that you're using your UH email. So if you're going through eConnection, in addition to going through Cougar Pathway is what? Anybody know?
The university's career center.
The university. So there's different career centers. So you as an engineering student actually have access to 2 different career centers. Not everyone on the campus has that support, right? So you have eConnection, which is your engineering career center. That's us. And then you have Cougar Pathway, which is a university career center. Both of us do require that you're putting your UH email address in any document that you're uploading, okay? And then the last thing we say is to put your customized LinkedIn URL. Who's on LinkedIn? Raise your hand high. Now, those of you who are on LinkedIn, keep your hand high if you're actually active on LinkedIn. So this is another part, again, we can help you with and support you in. And we actually do a couple of workshops throughout the year on this one in particular to help you to understand this is also a space of you really getting that information out there of who you are. Now you'll notice we don't have a physical address on here. Who has a physical address on their resume? So we don't really encourage you to put a physical address. Anyone kind of know why? Maybe? Yes.
Because nobody uses those anymore.
So when resumes were, back in the day, the physical address, right, was an actual requirement. I really need to know your physical address. Why? Because actual job offer letters were sent through the mail. How are they sent now? Yeah. So no one really needs to know your physical address unless you're filling in HR paperwork and then you fill that piece out. What we do usually say is if you want to make sure people understand that you're kind of willing to travel or you're putting things outside of this particular area, it's okay to put Houston, Texas on there. I know some people are from Katy, some people are from Pasadena, some people are from Pearland. You can put that if you want. Be mindful that if I'm in New York and I've never heard of Katy, I may not understand where you actually are. So you can totally use Houston. That's fine, not a problem, if you want to put that on there. Okay? Any questions about your contact information? So again, looking at your current contact information, you taking a look at your resume now, do you have these things on your resume? Is there anything you need to add? Is there anything that you need to remove in your contact information? Okay, can I move on? Awesome. So summary. So this is the question that we got from here. So objective, right, was an older term. Summary is a newer term. The difference between the two, the objective was all about you, the candidate. I'm looking for an internship. That is an objective, right? But that objective doesn't really help me to understand, one, who you are, and two, what skills are you bringing to me that are going to be of value to my company and this position. So the objective is kind of incomplete. You'll notice the summary actually has the objective in it. You see it? Who sees the objective in this summary? Yes?
The seeking an opportunity would be
Yeah. So the summary is much more inclusive, right? And it gives me a better picture, really, of your candidacy than an objective has. So if you right now currently in your draft, in your resume, have objective, take your lovely little pencil or your laptop and cross through that. And instead, I want you to write summary. Now, if you are a student who has a lot of professional experience, maybe you're already coming in with work experience, you have the ability to not just put summary, but you can maybe put professional summary in yours instead. If you don't, that's fine, just leave it at summary. Totally up to you, that's kind of a judgment call for yourself. So the objective has 3 parts to it, and we're gonna break down each of these 3 parts. So the first part is going to tell me who you are, right? And as students, this goes into you saying, and we actually have a biomedical person here, so I'm kind of giving you your summary. You talk about who you are as in your major, right? You'll also see people add adjectives, that's fine. I mean, if you're a motivated biomedical engineer, if you're an innovative chemical engineer, whatever, right? But the very basics of it is tell me who you are, very quickly, very concisely, okay? So looking at your summary, make sure that's the first thing you do. You'll notice I don't use pronouns, I, me, my, in here, because it's a technical document. And for the technical document, which is very different from a letter, right? The cover letter uses personal pronouns, I, me, my, us. But we don't use it in your resume. So if you have any I's, any my's, any me's, any pronouns, looking at your resume right now, everybody should be looking, make sure we're perusing. You should be taking those words out of your resume. Your resume is very technical, very strategic, very straightforward. So once you tell me who you are, now you need to be able to help me understand what experiences are you bringing to me from your skills. So I'm assuming that everybody in here has lots of different skills. Yes? Yes? We usually say, you'll see on our document, we say 3 to 4. But I'm probably sure you have more than that. So how do you actually choose just 3 to 4 skills in your summary? What do you think? Yes?
the most relevant ones.
And relevant to what?
What you're wanting. So if you're wanting a co-op internship for that, or if like you're wanting a research position, then it'd be more research based.
Okay, okay. So most relevant to the objective. Okay. Other thoughts? Yes.
Even like the specific position.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So you kind of going to be working off different resumes, right? One, you're going to have a general resume. And your general resume is that resume that everybody needs to make sure they're uploading in eConnection. Okay? This general resume that you're putting in eConnection on Career Pathway, just kind of having with you, any employer can take a look at it, right? It's not very strategic. It's not very aligned to a certain job description, but it is aligned to your industry, right? And the way that you're helping yourself to become better aligned to your industry is you would have looked at a lot of different job descriptions. And from those job descriptions, you're gonna start to see themes of different skills. And has anybody looked at any job descriptions of anything? No, one person's looked at job descriptions. So we got homework to do in here. Make sure you're looking at job descriptions, because what's gonna happen is now you're gonna really understand what employers in your field are looking for, right? We have a lot of chemies in here. Safety's a pretty big deal within your industry. So is biomedical as well. Pretty big deal. There's things about leadership, things about management, things about working in a team. If you have laboratory management experience, those types of things are important as well. if you're gonna create a really strong resume and a great resume, you have to do your research. And your research is looking at job descriptions. Right now, eConnections, we got plenty for you to look at. On LinkedIn, there's plenty. Companies that you're interested at, look at their job descriptions as well, okay? And that's where you're going to pull out the different types of skills necessary. On the job description, they're gonna tell you what they want. So if you have that skill, put it in your resume, right? That's what you focus on. And then the last piece goes to objective. What do you want? Why are you talking to me? Why are you giving me this resume? So this one's very specific to BP and very specific to a particular job description and a particular internship, right? So if you're coming to the career fair, which we all are, right, next month, and you're applying to these positions, you want to make sure that you're hitting and researching and planning to have strategic resumes for at least 5 to 6 companies, at least, right? I know some of my students want to get in with 10. Hey, if you can be there all day and want to try to hit 10, good, more power to you. But understanding we have 133 companies coming to our career fair. So how do you strategically align? If you're looking at their job description, you're looking at what they want, you're looking at what they need, give it to them, right? And for the others, you use your general resume. And that is based on industry. Make sense? So do we see the difference as why we're moving away from an objective and moving towards a summary? Much more involved, okay? And gives me a better picture of who you are.
What's the career fair?
September 12th.
There we go. September 12th. And if you have any questions whatsoever about any of our events, any of the things that we do, where should you go? eConnection. How many people have been on eConnection? Hands high, hands high. So some people haven't been on eConnection. eConnection is your window as an engineer here at the University of Houston to build your career. You should all be on eConnection. And where do you find eConnection? Access UH. Access UH. Okay. So moving on, now we're actually going to go through this lovely, lovely document to talk about all the different sections. And you'll notice we asked the question a little bit about the technicality of the resume itself. When you look at this document, you can see that all of our sections are bold, right? They're very clear where we're sectioning off. You don't necessarily have to put your section headings on the left like we do. Some people put it in the middle. Some people will put it on the right. Some people will put a line. That's completely up to you. As long as the reader can clearly see each section. That's what's important, and that's what needs to stay consistent. What do you see along the right side of the page? The dates. So looking at your resume, again, you don't have to have everything on the right, but looking at your resume, you need to make sure that all of your dates are aligned on the same side. So if you have your dates on the right and then you have a date hidden in a paragraph in the middle and you have one on the left, your resume is a little confused. So make sure that everything is consistent. Choose a side, choose where you want it to be. And also make sure the date format is the same. You'll notice we're suggesting month and year. Some people ask, should I put the actual word month? Can I put a number? Completely up to you. Regardless of what you choose, make sure it stays consistent out your resume. And be careful about putting seasons, fall, summer, spring. That's okay to be able to do because the dean's list actually is only per semester. But again, try your best to maintain consistency. I've had employers come up and say, it's sometimes hard when a student says, fall semester, I did this project, when the project was really a week, right? It was not the entire fall semester, or maybe it was just 1 month. So seeing that duration of time is important, and it helps them to be able to understand. So that's why we usually suggest month and year. Question? Let me get to you. Yes.
No, it was about the fall.
Okay, answer. Okay, yes.
Okay, so does that mean the longer the project you work on, the more impressive it is necessarily?
Not necessarily, because it's always going to come down to the impact that you made.
So if it's only a week long, you should state it's a week long. Do you have to specify the week? Because that just seems at that
You
point.
just put the month.
You
So
put the
like
month.
if it was 1 week in July, you put like July 2019.
Yeah, yeah, just a month is fine. Yeah, you don't have to go down to dates and be specific about that. Okay. So education. Let's look at our education section. You'll see in there, we say Bachelor of Science in, because we actually want to know the name of your degree. So if you're putting the word bachelor's degree, that's incorrect. Make sure you put the actual title of your degree. Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering, Biomedical Engineering, Mechanical Engineering. Your expected graduation month and year. So again, I'll see a lot of times students will say fall 2019. Fall takes up several months, right? And so you don't want to have this person guess because not every university is on the same system. So if an employer is looking at our university versus another university, they don't actually know when you graduate in the fall, right? So it's important to put May, August, December, whenever you're actually graduating from there. Can that date change? Yes, which is why we tell you to put expected. Because sometimes some of you may do co-ops and your dates may be changing of when you graduate. So within that education section, you're also putting your college, you're putting the university, if you have a minor, and your GPA. Questions about the education section? Get you in the back and then I'll get you up here. Yes?
Can we do the SAT?
I can't hear you, sorry.
Can we put our SATs on there?
No, usually not. And currently your classification here at the university is what? Sophomore. Okay, so let's talk about that. We often get that question, right? Because that's high school information. So coming from an employer perspective, employers want to know. Now, if you're a freshman, there's a little bit of a difference from there. Still, I would say don't put your SAT scores on there. But as a freshman, that period of time, we usually give you a little bit of leeway to continue to leave kind of your high school experience on there. But by the time you get to your sophomore year in college, the expectation is you would have utilized that freshman year to really start building up your college experience. So employers want to see what are you doing in college, not what have you done in high school. And so that's why we usually say taking off all the high school information. And the SAT usually kind of doesn't go on a resume in general because those are academic scores. But if you have your high school or like projects or things on there, those usually drop off. Yeah. And then right here, yes, you have a question?
So when you talk about like expected graduation date, should we write expected graduation date? Or
Expected May 2020.
Okay.
Yeah. Some people like the word anticipated. You don't have to use my word. So anticipated May 2021 is fine too. Yes.
So, like, I understand right here, it says, like, Bachelor of Science in Engineering. Would it be okay, like, we say pursuing a Bachelor of Science?
If you want to.
If you want to.
They both, it's the same thing.
Okay.
Because if you put Bachelor's of Science in Engineering and then you have a future date, we know you're pursuing.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's totally up to you.
Okay.
Any other questions on education? Yes.
Should we include if we have associates already?
Yes. Did you attain the associates?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So your educational degrees, and we do have students that transfer here, and they have other degrees. Our graduate students have bachelor's degrees, master's degrees. Your associate's degree, you earned it, you put it on there. Yeah. Now, if you were at another school and you didn't earn that degree, then usually you don't put that on there because this section is for earned degrees or anticipated degrees that you're about to earn. Any other questions on education? Yes.
Should the associate's degree stay on the resume for the entirety of the resume's life?
That really becomes a part of the entirety. I mean, if you are like in your, if you're like a senior level manager and you have 30 years of experience, it may come off, right? For me, and this is me personally, and if my director wants to chime in, she's more than welcome to chime in. I was a first gen, right? So my degrees are very important to me. My degrees are never coming off my resume because of how important they are to me and because they're different, right? Now they may move. So if I am right now within my career, 17 years of being in my career, it's probably gonna move towards the back because I'm removed from school, right? And it's now more professional. Yours needs to stay at the front. As you gain more experience, it probably does move down from there. You may have the question, oh, do I really need my associate's degree anymore? Completely up to you if you decide to put that or not. But I will never tell you to take off your degrees because of my personal experience.
And I just want to add that I do sometimes recommend students remove the associate's degree from their resume when they already have internships and tons of experience, and we're trying to figure out what is still relevant And for those that the associate's degree is really relevant and important to them, keep it on, but then we have to figure out what can we remove. And at some point, if you're doing really well, you have a high GPA here in engineering, that kind of trumps the associates, in my opinion, sometimes. So at some point, you can remove it, but as you're trying to get this experience, whether it's volunteer, leadership, professional, or you're working on projects, you kind of need to have it on there. But as you're getting more, you have to decide strategically what works best for you if you do want to remove it, but it's going to be your personal choice.
Yes, good, yeah. And this is such a good example, thank you. This is such a good example of, as you all continue to learn about developing yourself professionally and presenting yourself in a professional manner according to society standards, you are going to hear differences of opinion. You're going to talk to an employer at Shell, you're going to talk to an employer at BP, you're going to talk to an employer at Lyondale, and they're going to give you conflicting information. And you have to be okay with understanding, I'm going to listen to the advice, but I have to make the choice that's best for me, right? But you need to make sure that you're informed on that choice. So you making a choice when you're not informed, that's probably not a good thing to do. But the more informed you are, the more you can help yourself to build your particular resume the way that you need to build it. Because you will hear conflicting information, even in the same space. When you come to the career fair, you can talk to one company, and then 5 minutes later, the other company is like, yeah, I don't really care about your projects, right? So be mindful of taking the information and deciding how you move forward with it. And if you ever have additional questions, always follow up, right? If someone says they don't want something, always ask the question, why? So that you now understand how to move forward, okay? Anything else on education? These are great questions. Okay, moving down to relevant coursework. What is that word that we have in parentheses?
No core class.
No, on our document. Not that one, sorry, not this one, this one. Optional, and yes, no core classes. Why do you think we say it's optional?
You may not have space and other things might take precedent.
Okay, yeah, that could definitely be a reason. Any other ideas why you might think it's optional? I'm say you absolutely have to have these courses on here.
Maybe the courses aren't like that important and
Okay.
the company's not gonna want to know.
Okay, possibly. So now looking at what type of courses are we putting on there, right? So asking that question. And then of course what she said, no core courses. So if we're putting things, you have to understand in the context of where you are. You're coming to an engineering career fair, right? So there's kind of this thought process of you all have to go through certain courses in order to attain a degree within engineering, right? So calculus, who has to take calculus in here? Everybody, right? With that information, let's take tech comm. Yeah, everybody. So the purpose of the resume, again, is to help you stand out. The purpose of the resume is to give them something of value that will really make you an ideal candidate, right? That'll help you to really kind of push to that interview. So if you're only focused on putting courses that everybody has to take, what is the purpose of doing that? Now, as you start to go into your upper level courses and you start to choose electives and you start to go more focused into what you're trying to do in thermodynamics and circuits and all these different things, right? And it actually aligns with the job description. Okay, now we're getting somewhere, right? From there. So taking a look, if you do have courses on your resume now, go ahead and take a look at your resume and make sure that it's actually courses that not everybody takes. If you got biology on there, English 1 on there, all those different things, everybody takes those. So this is kind of where you're, again, shining in. What direction are you trying to go? What different things are you trying to do from here? But not something that they understand as a part of the core of getting an engineering degree. Yes?
What if we take the class as an honors class? Like, for example, I think a lot of us took like Chem-Pro over the summer as an honors class.
And I would definitely add Chem-Pro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, does it change? Like, if So like I'm also taking organic chemistry, but we all have to take organic chemistry. I'm in honors organic chemistry. Should I put that I'm in honors organic chemistry, or do they not care?
Again, I think it comes down to, I would never say they don't care. But I think it comes down to you saying to yourself, if I'm putting this on my resume, does it add value, right, to what they're looking for? Does it add value to my candidacy? And does it give them something extra that other people don't have? Now, everyone's not, you're right, everyone's not in honors, right? So if that in itself, if you want to be able to put that on your resume, you can, right? And going from there. I would also say to you, that's a really great question to ask employers as you're meeting them. Is that important to you? To have this, I'm in honors organic chemistry, is that something I should be putting on my resume? Yeah. Other questions? Yes. Oh, I didn't even see you back there.
What about our minors?
Can you speak up for me?
What about our minors and the coursework that we take in the minors? Do we put that there?
So again, does it add value? Because minors can be all over the place, right? And so does it add value to that job description and what they want and what they need? And if it does add value, if it gives you something extra, then maybe you do. If it doesn't, right?
What's your minor?
Releases or philosophy and politics.
That's very interesting. Politics, yes.
I know I'm jumping the gun here, but for activities, I put member of Sigma Phi Epsilon. Because like I just assumed that like from the perspective of the employer, they want like a well-rounded human being, they want someone that's like, you know, has like, and that frats do practical things, like, you know, they do like humanitarian work, volunteer work. So if you're like, oh, you're in a frat, so but you know, you're not just this recluse, you're part of your community and you're active.
Yeah. Do you mind if we wait till we go down there? But I do want to answer your question. So if you'll remind me once we get down there, absolutely, because I do have an answer for you.
Regarding coursework, I know for me personally, like, I know that chemical process is an important class when you're speaking to recruiters. I felt that I didn't include that in my resume. Should I, and I know you said it's optional, but is that something that we can instead speak to recruiters on, like, whenever we're having those conversations, like, instead of adding that to my resume, would it just benefit me to just have those conversations with recruiters, so like, you know, I've already passed my chemical process course, this is what I'm doing with like my actual academics.
Yeah.
Does it look better when it's on the resume?
I mean, I would encourage you to put it on the actual resume, right? Because the resume, again, you have to understand that everybody that sees your resume, you're not actually going to talk to.
Yeah.
So now that recruiter is getting a benefit that not everyone else is, right? Especially if you can speak to it and you talk about like what it did for you and the skills that it has, then you should be putting it on a resume and talking to other people about it as well. Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
So Kempro, we've all passed Kempro, and we can add that to our resume. What about courses that we're taking right now and that are important, like thermodynamics?
Yeah, I've heard conflicting information about this, so I'm gonna give you both. So I have some employers who are like, if you didn't pass it, you don't have that skill, I don't wanna see it, right? Because that's the whole point of the resume. And then, on the opposite side of that, I have employers who said, you know what, it's okay to go ahead and put in progress, right, that you're currently taking this. Because if you're currently in progress now, and I'm trying to offer you a summer internship 2020, I know you would have acquired that, hopefully. You would have acquired that course so that I can bring you on, because that's one of the requirements of the job. But I know you would have had it. So again, it comes down to that piece of how you, who are you sending it to, how you align it, what you need to have. I do agree with anything that's on your resume, that should be a skill you have. That should be knowledge that you have, right? Not you forecasting, oh, in 2 years I'm gonna take this, because that doesn't add value to anything, right, that the company actually wants. But again, some companies are saying if you put in progress and then putting from here, maybe it's okay. Not everybody's gonna like it. Yeah, sorry. Other questions on coursework? Okay, so let's jump down to relevant projects. Okay, here. Raise your hand and raise your hand high if you have projects on your resume. High, 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 high. Okay, so not everybody, right? As an engineering student, the expectation is you will have projects on your resume. That is an expectation. Within the classes that you all have, we are doing projects, yes? We're having projects. Some students will say, well, it's a pretty small project, so I don't really want to put it on my resume. When you say that, when you do that, notice what you're also saying is you're completely omitting the experience you have and that you've attained, no matter how big or no matter how small. Projects are not only obtained in the classroom. So yes, we are saying as an engineering student, you're gonna graduate with projects. You're gonna have that experience. But sometimes you all do projects independently, right? And that's okay. A lot of mechanical engineers, I see this constantly, independent projects of things that they're doing, things that they're building, things that they're working on. If you have been a research assistant, or if you volunteered with a professor and helped them with a project, that's also project experience. If you're part of a student organization or a professional organization in the community, you're helping students at a middle school and building projects for them. Those are projects. So it's really important that you all understand, as an engineering student, this is not something we recommend, or this is not something that we say is optional. It's something we actually say is very important, is expected of you. You need to have engineering projects on your resume. And again, they come in all different areas. The engineering projects, you need to make sure, again, you're naming it and talk about where it is. So is it at the University of Houston? Is it an independent project that you're doing? Is it a part of a competition, right, that you're building a project for? When you're listing these, in addition to in your experience section, this is when you're going to get into your bullets. This is where they're really looking for the experiences that you're bringing in your projects and your experience from here. So, the formatting of this, we asked the question a little bit earlier, the formatting. So the structure for easy reading, you'll see on there, we have a bulleted format structure. Sometimes we'll see students write it in paragraph format, but that makes it a little difficult for me to read quickly and for me to really understand and get it in chunks. And you know how our brain works. We kind of work in chunks of understanding and taking in information. So when you use the bulleted information, you use the bullet, I can easily see, right, your experiences, rather than a whole paragraph just thrown on your resume. Those are harder to read. So make sure that on your resume, you are using a bullet. Sometimes people will use multiple bullets. They'll use a bullet here and then indent, use another bullet and indent. And you don't need to do all that. Just kind of align it, kind of like we have on there, just to use main bullets. So if you have bullet and an indented bullet and indented bullet, it doesn't work. That's a little bit too cumbersome for the information. The way that we teach you to do this is in your bullets, in your project experience, in your work experience, make sure that you're listing the most valuable, impactful result that you've had in that experience. Sometimes as engineers, we tend to think it's about chronological order. So I started with this, and then I went step 2, and then I went step 3, right, to list our bullets. But that's not really the way that we want you to list it on a resume. It's about impact. It's about greatest result, greatest accomplishment. So your first bullet under your project, your first bullet under your experiences should have the greatest impact for that company. So I would tell you, take a look at your bullets right now and see what you have. And if you don't have anything, just kind of maybe think about an impact that you had on that experience or that project, but take a look at them and make sure that that first one really wows you, because it needs to wow the employer as well as the recruiter. Yes, ma'am.
I just remembered, I didn't put bullet points on here, but I put them on my LinkedIn.
Okay.
So I'm gonna be on my phone looking at my LinkedIn.
That's fine.
But I'm not like on my phone ignoring.
Looking at your LinkedIn. Got it. Got it. So again, take a look at what information you have. So we teach you a formula. Anybody see that formula in there? What's that formula? Anybody see it? Looking under experience. Come on, yell it out. There we go. Action, verb, task, result. Really easy formula to use. And a lot of times you'll also see us talk about this in the interview formula as well. We call that the STAR method, but we'll talk about that some other time. But this formula, right, you have a document we gave you that's titled Action, Verbs, Engineering. Every time you put an experience, every time you put a bullet on your resume, you want to start with a really strong action verb. Really, really strong action verb. So, let's see if I can get you all to talk back to me. Anybody have an action verb on their resume that they think is pretty strong? Yes, ma'am. Give me one.
Design.
Design. Awesome. And that's very much engineering. Who else? Yes.
Directed.
Directed. Leadership. Management. Team. Okay? Somebody else give me another one. Yes.
Analyze.
Analyze. Okay? I'm thinking lab in here, research, understanding how things fit together. We're good. We're good. Yes.
Presented.
Presented. Okay. So communication. How do we distribute information? Very good. Yes.
Collaborated.
Collaborated. Working in a team. Right? Awesome. And these are coming from your resume, not my document, right? Okay. So these are really great words, and you'll notice when you say one word, I'm able to kind of pull in more information, right? Just from that simple one word. And this is again one of my HR friends teaching me about how she can quickly see the words you use to see if it matches the skills that are necessary, in addition to what type of employee you're going to be. So if you've collaborated, you've analyzed, you've designed, whoa, right? Like you have the experience to kind of do all these different things. Do you need to always have strong leadership words, as in always being the leader? Led, design, produce. Why not? You want to be a leader, right? Like why not?
Team member too.
Ah, so you need to be able to show you know how to work in a team.
You also need to just show that you're, in terms of like the nitty-gritty, hands-on calculation work, that's, so you can have all the leadership experience in the world, but that, if you don't know how to like calculate a triple integral, if you don't know how to, apply the maths and sciences to get actual real work done, that leadership is like key.
Yeah, you need to also be a worker bee as well, and making sure you're getting things done. Absolutely, the hands-on pieces as well. Yeah, so showing your independence, right? Definitely as a leader, as a worker, but also showing your ability to work in a team. I want to teach you all a really quick tip. So sometimes we don't understand, sometimes I see resumes where people are always looking like they work independently by themselves and they never have any type of team type of words. If you can add the prefix co in front of a word, it really helps to amp up your team membership. So instead of if you are working on a team, now if you're not working on a team, don't fake it. But you to be able to say you co-design, co-produce, collaborated, coordinated, right? Being able to talk about that and using that particular prefix in the front, you can still use really strong words and talk about your skills in addition to working on a team and with a team. So as you think about your projects, being able to make sure you put in those strong words that you can get from the job description, right? The next thing you want to do is you want to talk about a particular task. And usually when you're doing projects, do you just have one task? You have several things that you kind of have to do to get to that end result, right? In addition to that, there's probably several results that you have along the way to get to that end result. So you have to be able to articulate which task you want to talk about that you did and that you went through as you're trying to put together these bullets for your project. Anyone want to be brave and maybe give me a bullet under there? Who has projects, by the way? Give me your hands again. So any of you want to be brave to tell me maybe a bullet?
Yeah, demonstrated basic concepts of chemical processes such as mass balances and heat transfer.
Okay, that was a lot. Do it again for me. Speak loudly.
Demonstrated basic concepts of chemical processes such as mass balances and heat transfer.
Okay, so demonstrated, show, right? Another word for show. And tell me one more time. It's hard when I can't see it.
You know what that is? It's the second one in blue because I got it from Lincoln.
Okay. Demonstrated, now I can't read your handwriting. Basic concepts of chemical processes. Okay, so one thing, thank you for being brave enough to share this with me. So one of the things that we talk about within the resume and when you're creating these bullets is we want to make sure that you're being very direct, right? With the actions you take with the task and the result. So right now, the way this bullet sets, it's pretty vague, right? Because I don't really understand what that means. It kind of sounds like a job description. Like you're gonna demonstrate these things, blah, blah, blah. But we don't want something to sound like a job description. We want it to actually sound like you achieved something along the way, right?
So I could like, cause like that one was with like brewing coffee, so I could do like demonstrated the mass balance of brewing coffee or something.
I actually see another one. Can I talk about this other one? So in another point, she has designed a fun, how do I know it's fun? Subjective. Designed a hands-on project for junior high and high school students. Okay, that's a little bit better because now I understand you have these skills of design. Good. And then the task was she had to design a project. Fun. Be careful with your subjective language, right? It may not have been fun for a kid there. But just saying that you designed a project. If you could tell me like what type of project, like did you make a robot? Did you have a maze? Did you design, just something. If you could be a little bit more specific, that could help a little bit. And then she also helped me to understand that she was doing this for students in Houston.
Yes, ma'am. So it's Dr. J's using that for the promise.
Okay.
He wants to use them for promise.
Okay, awesome. So for her to be able to say, if she wanted to kind of amp this up a little bit, designs a hands-on project for Houston metropolitan area students or a particular high school, right? From there, but then to talk about why. Why are you actually doing that? And this is you forecasting. You haven't actually done this, have you? Have you done this?
We got over summer.
Okay. And what was the project?
It's got the title like Brewing a Cup of Chemistry. So we brewed we brewed coffee 3 different ways. And so we went through the mass balances in different ways to see which one was like the most efficient or best way.
Yeah. So she used a couple of awesome words in there. She talked about efficiency, right? Now I'm gonna hone in on that particular word and she can do it a couple of different ways, but designing this particular project, you can talk about to increase the efficiency of something, right? If that's what she actually did. Because now I understand that the design is the piece of the action verb. The task was about this particular project, and what was the result? Increase the efficiency of whatever it was. You see how that kind of all fits together? Testing efficiency. So testing the efficiency, yes. So that's kind of how you put a bullet together. And a lot of times it will happen where you're good with the action verb and the task, and you completely leave off the result. But the result is the most important when you're putting that together. So as you're looking at your projects, for you to be able to understand, do I add all of those elements to create this really strong bullet? In engineering, there is a strong love for numbers. There's a strong love for quantifying your results. So if you're gonna talk about you led a team, tell me how many. So don't just say led a team or led students. Tell me you led a team of 4, right? And as you're going into that, when you're on the end, if you talk about increasing something, decreasing something, if you want to add a number, 25%, 5%, 65%, whatever you want to put in there, and having that information, that also adds to the value of your resume as well. Does that make sense? Anybody have numbers in their resume right now? No one? Yes. Would you mind sharing?
Yes, for my position with SHEP, as a SHEP junior chair, one of my bullet points was communicate with sponsors and professionals to schedule 8 events per semester for a group of 16 students.
Awesome. Good. Yes, you had said one?
So that I conducted over 100 subjects for this experiment I'm doing.
I can't hear
I
you.
conducted over 100 subjects for the experiment I'm doing.
Okay, you tested over 100?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed that word, but yeah, tested over 100 subjects.
Okay, and what was the result of that?
We're still coming to conclusion with it.
Okay.
It's an in-process project.
Okay. And then you said you had a number?
Yeah, but dedicates 5 hours weekly by responding to economical challenges affecting the communities in the city of Houston.
Oh wow, what is that job?
It's with it's an organization I'm with. It's in the Bonners.
Okay. Anybody else? Want to share anything? Okay, yes.
I had that I mentored 5 to 8 younger Girl Scouts over a 5-year period.
Okay. And the result of that?
I have that they earned their bronze award.
Okay.
Which,
So again, right? So again, make sure that it all fits. So don't just tell me you had an action with a task. talk about the result in that same bullet so that it all fits together. Sometimes they'll go, I want to explain it at the top, explain it. You spent 3 bullets explaining, and then I wait until the very end to get the result. They want to see results, right? Like that's what it's about, results. And sometimes we're still in progress with results. And so when we're still in progress, we have to think about what results have you already created. Not just the end result once you're on the end of that project. That's not what you want to wait for, but to think about, here's the different things that I've been doing, even though I haven't reached that main result just yet. Yes? Yes. Question, or are you just stretching? Okay. All right. So now we get down to experience. How many people have experience in this class? Hands high, hands high, hands high, hands high, hands high. Okay. All right. So experiences on your resume. Some people didn't, or just don't want to raise their hands. So experiences on your resume. Again, these can come from work experiences. These can come from internships. Anyone had an internship? Oh, awesome. Can you tell me where?
It's with Dr. Rafai.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as a research assistant?
Yeah, so basically I'm just doing like Excel work and like turning data into graphs. and
Okay.
stuff.
Okay. And then how about you?
I was in El Paso this summer, and we were studying electronic cigarettes.
Okay. Wow. I know there's been big news about that right now recently, so very timely. Okay, so again, internships happen here, work experience as well. I know several of you all raised your hand, work experience, so that information counts as well. So again, similar to what we had in the bullets above with the projects, same thing. How can you show your greatest value? Make sure you're using really strong words at the very beginning to talk about the task, and then having that result on the end from there. Okay, so it follows the exact same format. Now, sometimes we have experience. How many people have work experience not in engineering? Which is very common. And we call those transferable experiences, and they're still important. So some people will say, well, should I put my research or my retail experience on here, or if I worked in the food industry, should I put that on there? Yeah, because you have been employed before. You understand what it means to work. You understand about environments. You understand about businesses and all these different things. So yeah, you still gain skills from those particular experiences. Now, the way that you craft your resume is something that you need to be mindful of. So can somebody give me an experience of maybe an industry they were in that's not directly related to engineering? Anybody want to share? Yes. Retail. It's very common. Retail is a very common one. One of the first things I think about in retail is customer service. Usually you build really strong skills in retail related to customer service. Does customer service translate into engineering?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How did you translate it on your resume?
Like what do you mean? Like how?
What did you put in your resume for that experience?
I said I provided customer service by selling items and encouraging customers to purchase items from our store.
That's pretty direct. Yeah. So his ability to talk about customer service, right? And that really works, right? Because a lot of times when you're talking with recruiters in engineering, they're focused on internal customer service. They're focused on external customer service with their clients. And so he would be an asset if he did a good job in customer service. If he did a good job and he kept people coming back, and to be able to talk about how he paid attention to the individual needs of customers and assessed their needs and provided them customer service, right? And what they needed in a timely manner. So being able to talk about those different things still translate. If you were in the food industry, right? So I worked at a couple of different food places, and the ability to manage several different things on one time, cash register, getting the order of food, waiting tables, so you have the ability with time management, managing multiple projects, right? Understanding about balance, in addition to taking on different responsibilities. So those are still, say again? Conflict is a big one. Yeah. So learning to manage conflict, address conflict. Anyone ever taken on a management or leadership role, right? So talking about those different things. So all of those are transferable. So even if you don't yet have your experience as an intern or within the engineering industry as an RA or doing any projects, your work experience still counts. Now, someone in here may have not had any experience, right? Working, but still you thinking about the experiences that you have had. Again, going into volunteering, being part of a student organization, those are experiences. If you don't yet have them, you can actually get them, okay? Any questions about the experience section? We're good? I want you to take a moment to look at your resume. Look at your resume. Look at your experience section. Make sure the first words you're using are strong words. If you have the word work as your first word, cross it out now. That is not at all. That is not a strong word. That is not a strong word. But you have a whole list of stronger words. And usually when you have the word work, I'm gonna get to you in a second, Annabelle. Usually when you have the word work, usually you have another word in that sentence that you're actually trying to talk about, but you just have it hidden. Because we all work, right, some kind of way, right? And that's not what you're really trying to sell, that you work. You're trying to probably sell another skill that you have in that sentence. Yes?
Is offer a good strong word?
It depends how you use it. How are you using that?
Because that's like from a nonprofit, so it's like offer scholarships to student fair schools.
Okay, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Do you, is that the only bullet under there? Okay, okay. Offer's fine, yeah. Provide, distribute, yeah. So just what are you being mindful of what you're trying to say? And I understand because I understand that story, I understand what you're trying to say. Yeah, yes.
In the interest of saving space, for some of my bullets, I would like combine two of them that were similar, so they have like two words in the beginning. Should I not do that?
Can you give me an example?
Like, I have transferred and reviewed YSI water quality data from fieldbook to digital format.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, because what I don't want you all to leave with, I can only have one verb in mind. And that's not what I want to say. What I want to say is you start, right, with a strong verb. But at the same time, there's a balance. I've seen people go research, plan, like they just have verb after verb after verb after verb, and the whole entire sentence is just skills, and it doesn't fit. That's not what a bullet is. But to have one or two and talk about and still have that task and result attached to it is fine. But not having something at the very beginning that doesn't match you pushing off this skill that's important to the job description. But having to, yeah, that's good. You're good. So can I move on from experience? Yes? Okay. Skills. Now here is where you list. You do list information in your skill section, and you'll see that the way we currently have it is we're just listing skills and we're separating it by column. Is that the only way you can format it? You're taking your head, no? Is yours formatted a different way?
I mean, I have it formatted that way, but I
Okay.
can think of other ways to format it. I mean, you can
Like
also
what?
do it you can also do it in a similar format that you do like bullet points, or you can provide, I guess, like maybe give it examples of those skills adjacent to them. I mean, I see that there could be other ways to format it.
Okay. So usually this section is focused on technical skills. So remember I talked about transferable skills a little bit earlier? Anybody heard the word or the phrase soft skills? Also transferable skills type of thing. Usually those don't go in this section. So for you to put that you're a leader, you're a good listener, you time management, like those particular skills do not go in this section, right? They're shown in your experiences. They're shown in your projects, okay? They're shown in your actual bullets. This one is more your computer skills, your technical skills, your languages. Sometimes people will expand this to say skills and certifications. Sometimes certifications is separate if they have a lot and have dates attached to it. Skills, you don't really explain. You just list them, right? There's no explanation along with that. And you'll notice we actually don't use bullets in ours because we're trying to make our bullets stand out. And our bullets stand out to show you, I'm going to talk to you about a result that I've created. So we haven't used bullets in ours intentionally. You can use in this section, instead of using commas, you can use columns. Because some of you may just have 3 skills. So it's like you have the skills listed down on your paper and then you have a whole bunch of white space. which may make your resume look a little uneven and unbalanced, right, with all that white space. So you can use a column, Word document, column it off. Some people will use shading, like I've seen like a light gray shade across their page to kind of highlight their skills from there. Whatever you do, remember it's about listing. Remember to create a balanced space within there, so you don't have a whole bunch of your page, all your words over here, and then just have blank white space on the right. You don't need dates of when you obtain these skills, that's not necessary, but just listing is really important. Yes?
Okay, so for mine, if I include like, cause like I've only worked with MATLAB and Excel, and I don't want to like take up all that space for two things. So if I have that included in my summary, do I need to relist it?
Usually you want to make sure that the skills are listed there, yeah. And you're probably going to have an appointment with me soon to take a look at your resume. Yes?
Could we combine the relevant coursework with skills? Like listing the classes you've already taken under skills?
I have not seen that before. I don't know, Janice. I haven't seen that before. And I think mainly because you're talking about different things. Your coursework don't necessarily match your skills all the time from there. So I think they are usually separated out. And she's a hard no in the back. Yes, and then yes.
When talking about your skills, would it be okay to like, you know, like how you do like the bullet points is like describe like your projects or work experience, but have bullet points of like, for example, like let's say you have programming skills and application skills and like, let's say language, like have bullet points for each for your skills, or do you just combine all your skills all together?
It's really up to you. And again, like I said, make sure you're balancing your space, because sometimes what happens is, again, people will start to tell me, like, I know that Microsoft Excel is software. You don't need to tell me that it's software, right? And so I'll have people say programming, Microsoft, language, French, right? And then they have all this information on the right side of their page. And the right is, or the left side, and the right is just blank, right? So you have to figure out when you list it, is it a balanced way that you're doing it? Because people do it in different ways. In addition to that, if you have really strong engineering skills, they'll actually move their skills up, right? So right now we have it under experience. But if your experience is transferable and it has nothing to do with engineering, then your skills would move up, because now you've focused on making sure all of your engineering is at the top. And then anything after your engineering becomes additional value that you're bringing to a company. So that really is up to you, just as long as it's balanced. Yeah. Same question? Okay, all right. Anything else on school? Yes.
So you said like engineering goes on the top, you prioritize that, but what about the dates? That's not gonna seem weird? I always thought it was gonna be the most current and then the most.
So it is. So when you say that seems weird, tell me which section you're talking about. Because skills don't have dates. So what
Okay,
are
not skills,
you talking about?
But let's say experience versus activities.
Okay, so in your experience, are they engineering?
Yes.
They're
Okay, no, ignore the question. No, I don't.
No, I don't want to ignore the question, because actually it's really, I just want to make sure I understand, because we do have students in there where you have to kind of manipulate your resume a little bit. So for instance, I'll have a student who has in their experience section, they're currently working, let's say on campus, right? And chronologically, they need to list that first. But last year, they did an internship. So the internship comes second, right?
Okay, yeah, that's
But you can manipulate your resume. So instead of just saying experience, what I would tell that student to do is now have a brand new title that says engineering experience and put the internship first, right? If there's activities in engineering and you've joined something, that should go next. Now, where does that on-campus job go? It goes more towards the bottom, and you relabel it additional experience. So now your engineering is always at the top. So you can manipulate your sections a little bit, not too much.
Okay, now, okay, yeah, that was my question.
Okay.
I had another question too.
Yeah.
What about if you're bilingual? How can you add that in your skills? Because over here it says certifications, language skills, but I don't have that.
So you see on the skills that there's another way that we said just language skills. So you can talk about being fluent, bilingual, conversational. So just adding those, conversational Spanish or fluent in French, or right, just being able to add them. It's fine, yeah. You don't have to be certified. Right? Yeah. Other questions? Yes?
Should you put Microsoft Office under skills?
So conflicting information, I'll give you both for that. So I've had employers who say students don't always understand about really using Excel. And Excel's a really big deal, right? If you know how to use it beyond like just putting things in a block. So some employers really do want to see that information, saying you know how to use Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Access. Some students will just put Microsoft Office, right? Just to kind of put it in there. But understanding according to what they need and isn't on the job description as well, and saying you have to be like a super user in Microsoft Excel in order to get this type of position. So there is value to putting that on your resume from there. In addition to understanding that there are people who don't necessarily have those skills, although we do assume that everyone knows how to use all of these products. Did that answer your question?
If you got like a certification in like Microsoft,
Awesome.
Can you add that?
Azure certification. That's awesome. Yeah, and I know more and more people are starting to get those as well.
It's related, almost the same question, but like, at my internship, they taught me how to do more things with Excel than what I've learned in class. Like, how can I like make it, you know, like show like, it's not just that I know how to use Excel, like everyone who passed intro to engineering does, but it's also like more than that.
And there was no certifications associated with it. It was just the
Right, they
fact
just showed me
that
how
you
to do it,
have
'cause that's what they want.
to use that. So I've seen people, I don't know if this is subjective or not, they'll put like super user on the side or more advanced Excel. Also, in addition to in your experiences, to talk about how you utilized Excel, right, to create a result is also another way to do that and show that you're more advanced than others. And if you all want to be, you know, kind of ideal, you should really make sure you're getting on Excel, like a lot, because that really sells it for a lot of people. We think we know how to use Excel, but we don't really know how to use Excel. Yeah.
I think it could also be in the projects.
Yep.
Project bullets.
That's true. Yep.
So,
Yes.
like used Excel to create lookup tables to do X, Y, and Z.
Yes. Yes. But don't start the sentence with use. Yes. Yes. Yes.
No, you. Sorry.
Okay. Anything else on skills? Did it get darker in here? I can't see.
Yeah, it's a cloud.
Okay. So last two pieces, activities and honors. Again, word choices, depending on who you are, what you have. I have really advised students to use the word leadership rather than just activities, right? Because it connotates a certain experience about you. And so you don't have to say the word activities, you can say leadership. So within here, we're talking about professional organizations, student organizations, organizations within the community, right? If you're doing things within the community, I think a couple of people said they're doing things in the community. From here, some of our volunteer organizations as well go here. So this is again a chance for you, similar to how you do in projects, similar to how you do in experiences, to really show about the results that you created. How many people are a part of an engineering student organization? Raise your hand high. Raise your hand high. So some people have never raised their hands, so we should probably talk after. It's important if you have the ability, because some of us are also working or we're going to school. If you have the ability to join an organization, especially within your major, right? So ENGI's big for all my candidates in here. But there's also SWE, there's also NESB, SHIP, MICE, all these different organizations about engineering for you to be a part of these organizations, but not just be a member. I want you to take a look at your resume. And if you have the word member on your resume, cross it out. You can't just be a member, right? Because that doesn't really show your leadership. That doesn't show how you've impacted the organization. That doesn't really show a lot of value, because you could be a member, pay your dues, and eat pizza, right? Like you could totally do that. They want to see you move beyond that. They want to see any leadership organization or leadership roles as an officer you've taken. If you can't take a leadership role as an officer, they want to see the leadership roles you've taken in a committee, as a chair, committee co-chair, or part of the committee, or volunteering within the organization. we all have an opportunity to choose some type of leadership role, regardless if it's an officer, committee, or a volunteer, to impact the organization. Don't just join an organization just to put it on your resume. Totally defeat the purpose of why we're telling you to join it. Yes?
I see that you mentioned like being a part of a committee.
Mm-hmm.
How would you phrase that? Like I have mine as outreach committee member.
Okay.
Should I just
Take
put
out
outreach
member.
committee?
Yep. Take out member, put outreach committee. And then with the outreach committee, I would expect to see some kind of bulleted result, right? Like you have increased the number of employers from last year, 15%, who are more engaged with your organization. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Yeah. Yes.
I have, like, particularly, I volunteer with Girl Scouts, but like I've done it since I've been in Girl Scouts since I was like 8.
Yeah.
Should that, like, where should I put that? Should that be an activity? Should it be an experience? Like,
It should stay in activities,
Okay.
or if you decide you want to change to leadership, because
Okay.
that's really leadership, right? For having done it for that duration from there. And again, being able to talk about what you've done for the organization, right? As it relates to what you're trying to do, right? Like, so Girl Scouts, let me just choose an example. Like, you don't want to put soul cookies.
right.
Right, because that doesn't really help them to understand, although I love Girl Scout cookies, to translate.
Right.
But for you to be able to talk about the ability of customer service and selling and maximizing more product and doing, like, that's different, right? But not just selling cookies. Or if someone was a receptionist answering phones. That doesn't really help, right, for them to understand what result did you create. You have to expand. But yeah, Girl Scouts is awesome. Yeah. Any other questions on the activities/leadership? Yes.
If we're talking about like volunteering community service, would it okay just to be like, just say, like, just do bullet points and just explain that I did this for this community and like this for this like club, I guess. I don't know how to describe it.
So it's the same format that you see in projects, the same one you see in experience, the same thing. So you list the organization, then you do the bullet of what you did,
Okay.
or what you accomplished,
Okay.
not just what you did. Yeah, the result that you had on there. Yeah. And here, you got a question, or we're done at 10? Yes?
10 till.
I think I'm watching.
Oh, I thought we were done at 10. I'm sorry. My apologies. I hope this helped you all today, and thank you so much for being here. Thank you for letting me know. I thought it was done at 10 o'clock.
One quick question
Yes.
before I leave. What do you, I'm presuming you don't want to use like.
I'm going to interrupt you, John.
I'll be here.
Don't forget, the Career Center is a resource for you. Feel free to set up an appointment with them and take all of your questions, have your resume reviewed by the professionals. And remember my rule for life. What's my rule for life?
Never stop asking questions.
No. Do what your boss tells you.
Do what the boss tells you. As long as it's ethical.
So, all right. Take care. If you have time for
Oh, yeah,
more questions
I'm here.
after?
Sorry, I thought we were done.
Thank you.
at 10. My
And we've
bad.
got a resume cafe next week.
It's on the board.
Is it?
Yep, it is.
Okay, there it is.
Take a picture.
Oh, we're supposed to